So I just got the car back to my place from Pops's. He finished it up for me. Really happy with the way it turned out. Really want to thank him. Thank Lisa. She made us dinner every night. Ryan, Royal, Chris, they helped tow the car back and forth from my place to my old man's place. So I really appreciate that. Not only did Ryan help me, we got his truck stuck in my backyard for about 45 minutes. Had to dig it out with shovels and my little lawn tractor. Oh yeah, I'm sure he's still feeling pretty good about that. Sorry, man. And my wife, can't forget to thank my wife. She held the fort down all weekend while I stayed at my old man's place, looking after the kids and all that craziness. So I had to thank her a lot too. Anyways, I thought I'd go through the car just in a little more detail with you and kind of show you some of the stuff that we did, some of the stuff that we finished up, and maybe some of the stuff we didn't touch in very much in the video. Starting with the main hoop. So we've set it back. You can tell if you look at it from here how the top half kind of rolls back. We did that two reasons. Weight, we can move, we're trying to get his weight as far back as possible, so that allowed us to move the seat back a little bit further. And then on top of that, it also gave us a lot more room in that corner from the driver's head. So that's probably the most important thing. You can set the driver way back without getting them too close to any of those bars. We also, with the offset main hoop, can run a much smaller halo over top. Those bends are all really close together. You have less distance running straight, which will make it stronger, will naturally make it stronger than if that cage ran all the way across here and you're doubling the length of that straight pipe. This just, the crush factor is better. It would take a lot more to collapse those pipes the way it's triangulated. So the rear down bars, you can see they come right off the top of the main hoop and they run straight down, right? They go into the trunk. I brought them down, not in a straight 90, or not in a straight miter to the floor. We 90'd them down to the floor. We did that so it was a little bit easier to run this rear hoop, which will kind of double as just an added bumper support, but it will also add as a future fuel cell mounting system, right? I'll be able to set a fuel cell in the trunk, mount it. I've got all this stuff there. We still need to put some supports from the trunk up, and then I think I'm going to do little gussets here as well. If we wanted to go crazy down the road, we could put supports here just to help support the body panels if we end up doing an aftermarket body or aluminum body panels. So it leaves us with a lot of options and a little bit of added strength in the cage. We tied the rear shock towers together, right? That just helps stiffen the car, reduces flex. We've tied that shock tower bar into the down bars, right? This pipe is all 1.5" 095 wall tubing for the main cage, and for the structural parts of the cage, that's what we used. For little stuff like this, do yourself a favor, get something smaller and lighter. It's not necessarily there to support impact, it's more there to help stiffen the chassis. It's more of a functional bar, so you don't need it to be as heavy as the rest of the cage. Do yourself a favor, save yourself some weight by using lighter tubing where you're allowed. So as I talked about in the video, this is the petty bar right here. It ties right into the floor right down here with all the other supports, right? What we did as well for the passenger side door bars is we tied that into the floor. This is the passenger side door bar. You can see it comes out and runs along the body line, right? Just a little bit added strength. This is a really cool view of how far set back the car is. I take one more step back so you can see this is essentially the A-pillar bar of the cage. We're 16 to 18 inches away from the actual A-pillar of the car. Like, it's kind of in line where the gear shifter is. That moved all the weight back, and not only did it move more, does it move more weight back, it creates less straight of an angle here, right? You can build a setback cage all the way as far back as you want. But if you're building your A-pillars all the way out to here, you've got to fill that gap with bars, and that's a lot of straight bar that has more potential of bending under impact. Where if you've got shorter pieces of straight, it's going to be stronger, right? So that's a big reason. I'll show you guys on the door bars why it is exactly that we do that. So the door bars aren't done yet, obviously. We've got uprights that need to go in them. But you can see how short, I don't know if you can really tell how short those door bars are. This distance here, instead of being the entire door width, they're 16 to 18 inches shorter, right? So they're just, it's stronger. You have smaller spaces between your vertical bars that you're gonna stick in there in your uprights. Shorter distances between the bends, which will make it a stronger bar. We did the same thing. We tied the center door bar back into the floor, runs all the way back beyond the door frame, gives that panel a little bit more strength if it gets hit during the course of a race. A big part of the reason that I put this heavy plate in here was to tie these bars back down, right? I'm gonna have 3 bars that come back down, tying into this 35-year-old rusty rocker panel is pointless. There is 0 point to doing that. Tying it into here gives you a ton more strength. If for whatever reason you take an impact on that side, you know that you're tied in every spot to real metal, to real steel, not this flimsy stuff that's rusting from the outside in. So for the dash bar, we kind of got creative. That was one part I hadn't fully had figured out, and now if you watch the earlier videos where I made my ECU mount and my fuse box mount, I'm gonna have to redesign all that, which is fine because this turned out really cool. So this is your typical dash bar, but we had such a big gap between the dash bar and the actual firewall that we were able to come out. We made another bar that's the same heavy bar as the rest of the tubing. Came down with, I think they call that the Earnhardt bar, right? Because that's a pretty decent gap. You always got a really big gap between A-pillars. With an offset cage, it's less than it could be on other cars, but it's still important to have that bar in the middle to help any giant objects. If a tire comes off a car or something, you need something there to protect you from large objects. But what we did is this bar here, we tied it right into the floor as well with a big plate. So this is all supported, and then we tied in our strut towers with 2 bars. One goes right back to the door bar, one comes back here, and same thing. And these are just to reduce flex. I'm not doing anything in front of the strut towers. Basically, if we do something in the future and we move the car up to an Outlaw, all that's coming out anyways. So just saving myself work. This will give us the stiffness we're looking for. We'll probably still run a strut tower brace from strut tower to strut tower, but this just helps keep everything kind of locked together and working in unison with the rest of the car, not having a flexible point here where the cage stops. Pop's also prettied up the engine bay for me. He polished up the intake manifold, he pressure washed everything down for me. Looks really good. It actually hasn't been this clean since I've owned this car, so it looks pretty good. Another thing Pops did was fill up the sunroof for me. So he's got a piece of tin in there. He actually ran it through the turning machine and recessed it and riveted it in. That looks really good. Much better than just a standard piece of tin flapped on top. I'm actually really happy with the way that turned out. I'm glad he took the time to do that for me. So there's still lots left to do. I still got to finish welding everything. Most of the bars are just tacked in place right now. Still got to weld them solid. Got to come up with the rest of the harness mounts. We've got the floor mounts done, but I need to do the mounts off of the harness bar. Proper seat mounts, I'm going to make a plate probably, or a bar that also runs across the frame that Scotty made. So that's all got to be done. And then I can start on stuff like the dash, the rear firewall. I got to put the rear firewall back in. So there's still lots to do, but the bulk of the work is done. But it just goes to show you, there's lots you can do Generally, when it comes to cage construction, your class's rules are the bare minimum. You only need to abide by those. You do what you're comfortable with if you're going to be the one driving the car. That's what you need to do to a car. Anything after that, if you can make the cage perform and add performance, why would you not do that, right? What's the extra 3-4 bars, the extra 2 or 3 hours worth of work to make the car perform better, make the car react better to adjustments, so on and so forth. There's more to it than just safety. Safety's first, 100%, but there's way more to it than just safety. All in all, we put about roughly, so far, about 150 pounds of tubing into the cage. We weighed it before and after. And I think once it's all said and done and on the track, I think I'm gonna be about 400 pounds under the curb weight of the car as it came off the showroom floor. So this is where we stand price-wise up to this point. With our previous total at $620, I had spent a total of $400 on the roll cage tubing. For the steering column, I needed a Heim joint, a bracket, and the quick release, which was another $50. $40 for a main power switch, and that brings us to $1,110 so far. Safety, function, longevity, it's kind of what it's really all about. Why not put the extra time to build something you know that's going to last? It's going to withstand an impact. Why cut corners and just do the bare minimum when you can spend a little bit extra and get something that works way better and lasts way longer? I don't know, maybe you think it's overkill. Reach out to me. I'm always up for a good race car discussion. Or if you got any questions about what we did or why we did it, hit me up. Instagram, Facebook. Find me on any of those. Follow me and I'll keep you updated as we get the rest of this thing done and ready for the spring. Cheers.